Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for this edition of SBB Live featuring Miss Reina Schlager with Schlager, Schlager, and Levin. How are you this morning, Reina?
I'm doing just great.
Wonderful. Well, we're really excited to have you on the show. It's always a lot of fun. You have a wealth of information, and you've told me 2021 actually marks 34 years of financial planning here in Southwest Florida. So, what do you have to say for yourself, Reina?
Well, I feel pretty good about everything I've lived through. I've had people from all walks of life, young and old, and after 34 years, some of those folks I saw them pre-retired, successfully retire, go through the aging process, help them through their assisted living travels, and also watch them pass away. And now I have their children. And just recently, I've started getting grandchildren. So talk about, the aging process. And besides that, all the regulations that have changed, the products that have changed. It's been a run.
It certainly has, and there's definitely some things that are really, really important for people to know when they're going through this planning process. So can you break down what you think the most important things for people to know actually are?
Well, every single category could be an 8-hour class in itself, which I've even done an 8-hour class just on long-term care. But I think if you break it down into categories, maybe I could give you like the 30-second elevator speech on each one of them. And like, what is the most important walk away? Because there is so much more.
Now, in today's world, it's a little different. Things have changed. They're consistently changing. What's different about like planning for retirement today? What kind of advice would you give to somebody like myself?
Well, you know, things have really changed. And the older you are, actually, the more it has changed from what you learned, growing up. What did they tell you? Your parents tell you, whatever, a father would say to their son or daughter, get with a good company, be with them for 30 years, you'll have your pension, you'll have Social Security. That just doesn't happen anymore. So the big issue is longevity. People are not retiring at 65, dying at 75, and only needing 10 years worth of retirement money. So I'll give you the horror example. Everyone with a 401k today probably has a target retirement account. That's an option. So here I am. I know I'm going to retire in 2030. And in 2030, if I put the target retirement choice for a fund, it's going to wind down as if you have no more chance for risk. But you now have 20 or 30 years in retirement. You don't want target retirement to end at your retirement date from work. You want it to target your death. So let it wind down as you get closer to death. Maybe then you don't need growth. People need to grow their funds, and they need to do more than in the banks. So if I would say anything, it's understand that you've got a plan for 20 to 30 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. And maybe even more, just because people are living longer, we're learning more about how to stay healthy. Now, let's talk about life insurance. It's always been something that I'm curious about, especially for somebody like myself that has no children. Give me your 2-minute spiel on life insurance.
When you say life insurance, I have this picture of that series called MASH. And as the guy on the stretcher is being brought to the tent, some guy who's an insurance agent is leaning over saying, sign on the dotted line. And, so life insurance agents have a hard time. But the fact is, life insurance has previously been thought to protect two things: college funds for children. So if you have young children, what happens if you die? Replace your income for your spouse and have money for children to go to college, and also to protect your surviving spouse or children so they could stay in their home, pay off the mortgage. With mortgage rates so low, I wouldn't pay off my mortgage. there's definitely a need to ensure for children's protections. But the biggest thing is term insurance. Term insurance is temporary insurance. Your biggest exposure in retirement is that at the first person to pass away, if it's a husband and wife, you're going to lose the lower of the two Social Security checks. The hardest thing to recreate in retirement is income. Income is the critical factor. So you need life insurance until you die. And if the younger you are, to have insurance that will be there in retirement, there's a solution. So I'm a planner. And if you're 18, you're 20, life insurance, and I my whole life ahead of me. But if you locked in to that premium at those younger ages, you have a much lower premium that will be there in retirement. And if you're 50 now and don't have it, you may not be healthy enough to, but if you are healthy enough, there are ways to figure out how to make your retirement funds or your, take home help pay for that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that some of these hybrid programs that are out there that can create, income through life insurance for you as you age. Now, here's another word.
So let me just respond to that.
Yes.
Everything you try to do in a single product has a fee, has a cost. So if you try to do too many things in one product, you're not going to do well in any of those goals.
Okay.
So unless you are a multi-wealthy person where you're using life insurance for guaranteed income later, where you have to put in excess of $100,000 a year into that contract, you should never be mixing life insurance and retirement. Anyone who is telling you, use this so you can pull money out of it when you retire, that's a big flag. It can be done, but it's inefficient. And you would be better off with a product that's for insurance and a product that's for income. So I just wanted to make sure that that's clear.
Perfect. Perfectly clear. And here's another thing that's really confusing over the years. The word annuity has really gotten a bad rap. I think it's a word that scares people. So talk to me about that.
So why does it scare people? It scares people because the news says annuities are bad. Annuities have fees. Annuities lock you up. I have very smart professionals who, when I say the word annuities, I drop down in their respect for me until we have an in-depth conversation. A professional who immediately glazes over or has a bias against annuities, it just means they don't work with annuities. And the person and entities in the news most bad-mouthing them are organizations that don't sell them. So if you don't sell it, you don't want your client's money going into something that you're not getting compensated for. Annuities are complicated. One set of annuities is for income. Another set of annuities is for growth. And annuities is equivalent to saying insurance, and insurance transfers risk. So if you can have growth in the market, you will have risk. You can have growth with market type of growth with insurance, which is annuities, and have some protections. So my biggest takeaway is if you have an advisor who you trust and they say, carte blanche, no annuities, they're not independent, they're not comprehensive. They may be really good at what they do with what they offer, but they're not giving you the full menu. So don't you want to talk to someone who gives you the full menu? Annuities are something you need an advisor for, a trusted advisor.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. As there's so many different products out there, and if you try to do it on your own, you're going to be ineffective. Now, what about folks who have 401ks, 401(b)s? Like employer retirement accounts in general? I know you've got some choice words of wisdom for us folks too.
I usually have choice words. So Most people who have a home, that is their number one biggest asset. The second biggest asset for most people who have a work history with an employer who provided a retirement option, there's their second biggest asset. So, and a lot of people, they may move from job to job. They have pieces of 401ks all over the place, or 403bs. They don't pay attention. They may throw it into a target retirement fund or a lifestyle fund, and it's got the wrong year. Or they may just pick a little allocation. You can't ignore it. If it's going to be your second biggest asset, it will be that if you pay attention to it. And there are programs offered by the employer that allow you to get advice on managing those funds. You don't have to do it yourself. If you've been so busy and have changed jobs and have 401k sprinkled, get them all combined. Stop your world to take care of you. A lot of people take care of so many other people than themselves. So I would say, yeah, exactly. The younger you are, put the most you can in, and the younger you are, see if your employer offers a Roth version.
Yes.
Roth would be tax-free when you retire. Traditional is taxable, gives you a little tax break now. Yeah. In today's world, with the prospect of looming higher tax rates, the time to do Roth investing is now. Yeah. So when you retire, you have less taxable retirement money.
No, you're absolutely right. And you breached right into our next topic. Like, what can you squeeze in a couple minutes on taxes?
So like I said, 8 hours would not do it. And I would say if I'm speaking to a group that may only have a W-2 and not enough deductions to itemize, you probably these days can go onto irs.gov and do your own return for free. If you have just your Social Security and maybe some dividend checks, go to irs.gov and maybe you can do it for free. Once it gets a little more complicated, most seniors do not need, this is a terrible thing to say, I am a CPA, but they don't need a CPA. A CPA firm has higher overhead than some of these smaller enrolled agent firms. Someone who simply is licensed with the IRS to do a return, go to someone that you talk to about what the return will cost, bringing them last year's return. They should give you an estimate so you control the situation. I've had people who are hesitant to ask about the fee. And these days, if you have a simpler return and they are competitive, some of the outlets like H&R Block and Jackson Hewitt, they can give you a good return. I'd say overall, new item is people who now standardize, use the standard deduction, haven't been able to take a charitable deduction because they don't itemize. Last year, 2020, and this year, the government has added a charitable deduction, even if you don't itemize. If you don't give your tax preparer the proof that you had charitable giving, then you won't get the deduction. So make sure you bring all your charitable giving to the tax preparer, even if you know you're not going to itemize.
Interesting. Well, what about general investing? I know that there's, again, a plethora of knowledge that you want to share with us on just general investing. So take it away.
I hear over and over the advice in the news is if you don't understand what is being recommended to you, do not invest. Well, I had open heart surgery in 2012. I couldn't possibly do my own open heart surgery. I only wanted the big picture. Am I going to not get it done because I don't understand the ins and outs of what that physician is going to do? The dentist, any professional, what you're relying on is that their certifications prove that They know what they're doing. Anyone who has discretion as an investment advisor over your funds, by definition, is a fiduciary, and they're bound to do what's in your best interest, which is a step higher than just something suitable for you. And when you deal with someone who wants a partnership with you, a relationship with you, they're not going to, there's a lesser chance of them beating you up for a short-term, enrichment for themselves. They're looking at the longer picture. So, I would just say that just be careful. The word fee is not a bad word, like annuities. The word commission is not a bad word. In fact, commissions in the news means two different things. One, in securities, commissions is a payment that comes out of your investment account. Mm-hmm. So it directly affects performance. But in the insurance world, commissions come out of the insurance company. If you invest $10,000, $10,000 invests, and the insurance company is paying that agent, it is not impacting the performance of your investment.
Yeah, kind of like a real estate agent.
Commission is better than a fee. But, again, it goes to how limited some news reporting can be. I don't want to sound like I'm anti-news, but people have to think, because what is usually on the surface, be careful of headlines, read the detail, because the detail can say the opposite of the headline. The headline's there to catch you, so you read the rest.
Right.
But so many people just read the headline.
They do. Now we'll bounce over to legal advice. Tell me what your thoughts are on certain documents people should have in place, and just kind of overview on that for me.
Absolutely. So I will say unequivocally, I'm a CPA. I'm a PFS financial advisor CPA. I'm not an attorney, and I do not give legal advice. A person on the street will use the word legal advice, but in the industry, that's actually a very technical term and restricted to be used by board certified attorneys. So what I do from my experience over the last 30 plus years is see what's happened when people haven't gotten the proper paperwork done in advance. And something as simple as the current Florida durable power of attorney, which isn't so simple anymore, it's like 22 pages plus. But getting that done avoids so much havoc. If you live and are incapacitated and aren't allowed to speak for yourself, if you don't have that document, even your spouse, even your children cannot act for you unless they become a guardian. In Florida, that's a 40-hour course. And then all transactions have to go through the courts. I just had a client whose mom lives in the Cape. The mom is her ward for other reasons not needed to be mentioned here. But there's lesser and lesser dollars. And she had to pay $2,000 to have a court-appointed accountant verify the very transactions and bookkeeping she had for herself. What a waste of funds. Because the daughter, did a proper accounting, and there's two guardians, two sisters, they check on each other. You don't want that kind of extra step. No. So the blanket statement I will say is, everybody listening, including you, Amanda, which you probably have, everybody should have a durable power of attorney document if you're 18 or older.
Absolutely.
Because you never know when something's going to happen. And that's the document that will allow people to step into your shoes and act on your behalf.
Yes, I'm a good girl.
That's my biggest legal message.
I said, I'm a good girl. I do have mine done, Reina. Well,
yay.
Talk to me about Medicare and any final words of wisdom that you have for me to wrap up our conversation today. We're so grateful to have you.
Oh, very short. The biggest thing coming up in October is open enrollment for people who have Medicare Part D prescription coverage. I am an advocate that you must check that every year. I am preparing for this coming season, and we're going to be using Shine in our office, which is a Florida volunteer, Florida funded program to help people with their insurance issues. It's been 15 years, 2006, that Part D prescriptions began. And for 15 years, we've been doing that analysis. And I have had multi situations where people have said, Reina, it's working. Don't touch it. Don't mess anything up. I don't want to change. And then we do the process. And if they have a lot of prescriptions, I've had people, if they didn't change, they would have paid over $9,000. And with the change, it was back down to a more manageable $2,000 to $3,000. You must check every year. So I do recommend people call Shine now, because you make appointments now for that open enrollment period, which is October 15th to December 7th. If you wait till October, their calendar will be filled. They work with volunteers and there's only so many people. So call now.
All right, perfect. And any last words of wisdom?
The last words of wisdom is, first of all, just use your good common sense. Be careful out there. Financial abuse is happening. They're targeting the elderly, especially in Florida. Go and get your annual free credit report online, not because you're looking for a credit score, but check out whether someone has a mortgage on your personal information that happens to be paid current, but they're using your identification. Check every year, it's free. Don't use debit cards for purchases. Go to the ATM, sure, but purchases, it's the weakest, most vulnerable for identity theft. And maybe let your partner's spouse or your most trusted person have a list of all your accounts. People have Bitcoin accounts that are online. They have investment accounts online. They have bank accounts online. There's no monthly statement. There's no file in the cabinet. There's only a password and ID. Have you shared those? Do you have a place where they're all listed? Because people are passing away and no one has anything to put their hands on. So don't rely on the news exceptionally. Remember one thing: news is entertainment these days. It's very hard to ferret out what is real news and what is there to get you excited, impassioned, and disturbed.
Yeah.
So try to find a trusted advisor who will partner with you, have the biggest picture, and if they themselves don't, quote, know it all, that they have a network of support people themselves.
Yes.
So I just want everyone to succeed and see their life dreams come true.
That you do a good job of, Reina. We're so grateful to have you as a partner here at Seniors Blue Book and appreciate your time this morning. I hope you have a great day.
Well, thanks, Amanda. I always use the Seniors Blue Book, and it's a great resource for this area.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, Reina.